What's up guys, Constech here, back again for another video. And today we'll take a look at the Fantech Venom WGC1 wireless gaming mouse. I got it from Shopee for 750 pesos and I have been using it for about 3 weeks now. I'll be sharing with you my experience and thoughts about this inexpensive wireless mouse. Let's get started. I'll have to commend Fantech for coming up with a very presentable packaging for this mouse, despite the cheap price tag. Anyway, let's unbox this and check out what's inside. So we have a manual, a short USB cable, and the mouse itself. The nano USB receiver is stored underneath the mouse and does not have any latching mechanism to secure it, but the compartment seems to be tight enough to make sure it does not fall off accidentally. The mouse skates are protected with a thin plastic. Make sure to remove it as it will cause inconsistency with the mouse gliding if the plastic is left there. The mouse measures 5.1 inches long, 3.1 inches wide, and 1.5 inches tall. It weighs at 103 grams without the nano USB receiver. It is a symmetric mouse with a design that favors right-handed users since the side buttons are on the left side. It has rubber grips on both sides which helps in gripping the mouse. It has a slightly high profile and its hump is slightly near the back. At the bottom we can see the two switches, one for powering on the mouse and one for the RGB lights. Overall, this mouse is on the medium-sized tier and has a fairly decent build quality. There's no apparent rattling and I like the textured surface as it helps in properly gripping the mouse. I also like that it has small grooves on the sides for resting your fingers. Judging from the design, size, weight of the mouse, and the usual size of Asian hands, it seems to be ideal for palm and claw grip. Fingertip grip will still work for this type of mouse, but it can be difficult if your hands are not that big. The main buttons use Huano switches rated at 20 million clicks. They're very tactile and stiffer compared to the usual Omron switches you'll find on most mainstream gaming mice. It's not much of an issue really, as it prevents accidental clicks. Though if you're used to spamming clicks, it can be tiresome. If you're coming from a cheap office or gaming mouse, most likely you'll not notice it, since most cheap mice use Huano switches because they're inexpensive compared to Omron. The rubberized scroll wheel has a nice tactile feedback when scrolling and is a bit hard to press. The side buttons on the other hand are light to press with a plasticky feel to it. I like how they're positioned though. They're not hard to reach at all. The DPI button is positioned above the scroll wheel and it has 3 levels, starting at 800 DPI, maxing out to 2400. It uses the Pixar 3212 sensor, which is an entry-level optical sensor commonly found in regular office mice and some budget gaming mice. It has 250Hz polling rate, maximum tracking speed of 30 IPS, and 10G acceleration. It has a lift-off distance of slightly over 3 mm before the sensor completely loses track. My initial testing with it shows that the sensor can track small movements, but it tends to go jittery every now and then. In the line test, it's got some angle snapping to make up for the jitter. Look, those straight lines look almost perfect. While the mouse glides smoothly and tracks just fine on my use case, it tends to lose track of very fast movement, primarily due to its low IPS and acceleration. Check out this test as I compare this mouse to my Logitech G102, which has a sensor rating of 300 IPS and 25G acceleration. Well, it's unlikely that people will be moving their mouse like that, but on a high level, competitive players go on low sensitivity and make big and quick mouse movements, so a better sensor is certainly needed. The mouse has a 400 mAh built-in lithium battery that can last up to 30 hours and is rechargeable via the included micro USB cable, which is quite short. Laptop users will not have a problem using this mouse while charging, but for desktop users, it's better to get a longer USB cable. As per my testing, the mouse lasted 5 days before it completely died out on me. I used the mouse for about 8 to 10 hours per day on average, and I'd say that's a pretty impressive battery life for a mouse this cheap. By the way, the mouse has a battery saving feature as well, so it turns off after a few minutes of inactivity. You can wake it up by pressing any of its buttons. This mouse also features RGB lighting. However, note that the lights cannot be customized or set to a specific color. It just cycles through the RGB spectrum and it's not very bright. By the way, you can turn off the RGB lights through the switch at the bottom if you want to save battery. So I've been using the Fantech Venom for a while now, and my thoughts about this mouse is that it's good enough for day-to-day use like work and casual gaming. I did not encounter any glaring latency issues for me to complain about it being wireless. I think the mouse would work quite okay for competitive play, but with some limitations. It lacks software support, so you cannot do any custom button mappings or fine-tune your DPI, and the sensor is good enough for the most part, as long as you don't go beyond the rated specs. For the average user, they won't notice this, but when you start making quick flicks, you'll immediately notice that the mouse is not keeping up with you. While the 250Hz polling rate should be enough for the most part, it shines pale in comparison to the 1000Hz polling rate you'll find on most mainstream gaming mice. Now, do take my opinions with a grain of salt. This mouse is good for what it is, and given its inexpensive price tag, I'd say I can still recommend this to anyone coming from a cheap mouse or to anyone looking for a medium-sized and slightly heavy wireless mouse. Nonetheless, it's still a good starter mouse if you're on a tight budget. It's got solid build quality, a comfortable grip, and a good enough sensor for work and casual gaming. Moreover, it has a very good design and aesthetics that blends well with any setup. That's it for this video. Like, dislike, comment down if you have questions or anything to say. Get subscribed so you don't miss out on my next uploads, and as always, thanks for watching and see you guys soon.